The Ravens Preview Show with Andy Pollin starts right now.
It wasn't perfect, it wasn't pretty, but it was the Ravens.
Listen to all Ravens broadcasts right here on 6:30 a.m., the ESPN 630 app, or ESPN630DC.com.
And with 1:17 left to play, the Hayes in the barn.
Now, here's Andy Pollin.
The Ravens with a 1 o'clock kickoff on Sunday against Seattle. They are 5.5-point favorites. Coverage here on ESPN 630 gets underway at 12:30. We do Ravens preview every Friday. Today joined by Ryan Mink, who is the editorial director for the Ravens. And as things evolve in social media, explain what an editorial director does for an NFL team.
Well, I'm one of our primary writers, so I write stories every day covering the team. I edit all of our stories. I write headlines for all of our stories and all of our videos. I have a podcast that I co-host with Garrett Downing called The Lounge. And what else? Appear on video sometimes. Mm-hmm. So, man who wears many hats.
Absolutely, and I'm a fan of The Lounge. I watch that a lot. I think you guys do a great job at a very relaxed atmosphere with a player. And this week it's Mark Andrews, if you want to look that up, and he talks about being on the verge of setting the record for most touchdown receptions for a tight end in Baltimore history, which is really cool. But when you say editorial, this is information obviously put out about the team, but I mean, is there any negative in this? Could you be critical? Is there anything in that way, or is it just more like PR releases? How does that work?
Yeah, good question. Our organization and our digital media department, led by Michelle Andres, we've always taken the approach that, we have to be real, right? So when bad things happen, we address them, right? When I wrote a story yesterday about Odell Beckham Jr. and how he's gotten off to a slower start than he expected, and that I think we all, a lot of us expected, and, how he's dealing with that. So, yeah, we address what's going on, good or bad. Generally speaking, we're going to tell it from the team's perspective, right? We kind of give the player or the coach the mic, and
right.
I'm not going to sit there and bash them, but we're going to address every issue pertaining to the Ravens, and let people explain for themselves, why maybe something isn't going right or whatnot.
Well, fortunately for the Ravens and you, things are going very well right now. And I think the questions that
exactly.
that many had about how well the Todd Monken offense would work and how long it would take to have it in full gear, they've looked really good recently. And I believe it was you who said this on the lounge this week, that Lamar right now looks as good or better than he did when he won the MVP in 2019.
Yeah, I think so. I think, in 2019, I think the Ravens offense and Lamar took a lot of people by storm and by surprise even. There had never been a quarterback who quite did it exactly like Lamar, mm-hmm. right? And this revolutionary offense that Greg Roman ushered in. And so, a lot of, when you think back to 2019, and there were certainly great games that Lamar had throwing the ball, and he was highly efficient, touchdowns to interceptions and whatnot, led the league in touchdown passes. But I think when you look at his game this year, you see a more robust passing attack. You see more wow kind of throws that he's making, not as many wow runs, when he set the record for rushing yards in a season by a quarterback. But I think that you're seeing a more well-rounded game overall by Lamar Jackson and just in complete control of the offense.
Yeah, I think so, too. And I think that, that was something that had to happen, his evolution as a passer. While he can still run, I don't think you want him running as much as he did in 2019, do you?
No, for sure not. Yeah, I mean, you never want to take that away completely, right? Yeah. I mean, that's part of what makes Lamar special. And but I think that the Ravens have, and Todd Monken has really empowered Lamar to take the next step as a passer. And they've gotten better, improved weapons on the outside for him, certainly, as part of that overall mission. And I think that we're seeing it all kind of come to fruition. And they're not there yet, right? Mm-hmm. This offense is still not as consistent as it would like to be. But I think they're heading in the right direction generally. They're moving the ball well. They've been good in the red zone the past 2 weeks. I think, you want to see incremental progress when you have a first-year offense. And halfway through the year, I think you have to be pretty pleased with where it's at.
No question. We're talking to Ryan Mink. He's the editorial director for the Ravens, who are sitting in first place in their division at 6-2. But you look at the division, and the teams that started out badly are starting to play well right now. And it looks like the best division in the AFC, especially with Pittsburgh winning last night, to get to 5-3, which makes this 3-game stretch here so crucial. They're going to play 3 games in 11 days, starting with Seattle Sunday, but then 2 division games, Cleveland and Cincinnati. I think a lot of what happens at the end of the season will be determined in the next 11 days, don't you?
Probably so. Yeah. I mean, the Ravens, these 3 games in 12 days, I mean, it's that's probably going to determine the division. And certainly I wouldn't count the Steelers out. You know, it looks to me, and I know we're only halfway through the season and a lot can change, but I expect that probably 3 AFC North teams are going to be in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And right now it's not easy to say who the odd man out is. You know, I mean, the Steelers are not playing as well as the other ones probably. You know, I think they've been outscored in every single or outgained in yards in every single game this season. You know, but they keep finding a way to win. That's kind of what the Steelers do, right? It's ugly, and they oftentimes in the fourth quarter find a way to win. The Browns' defense is really good. If they put it together on offense, they could be good. Now the Bengals, you know, are getting it together on offense. They're, of course, going to, you know, I think they're gaining momentum, are going to be a good team. So, yeah, the Ravens have their work cut out for them for sure in this division.
You mentioned Odell Beckham, who had a news conference the other day and said, you know, it's all about the Super Bowl for me. And I wonder, you know, as a guy who's a veteran in the league, who's been through this before, is he, I don't want to say he's pacing himself, but he understands the importance of the games in November versus January. Did you get that kind of feel from him listening to him the other day?
I did. I think a lot of that is him trying to it's a lot of self-talk, right? It's like, all right, you know, I'm frustrated right now. It's not going how I expect it to go right now. Let me try to like talk to myself here and reframe this and take a good outlook so you don't lose your patience, right? And because I think we can all feel that he's a little antsy,
right?
And he wants to get in that end zone. He wants to make big plays, and that's what he's accustomed to over his career, right? And everything was going so well for him this summer. I think it was a great marriage between he and the Ravens. He was practicing really well. He was healthy. He felt good. He looked good. And, you know, it kind of felt like the momentum was building where, wow, all right, this guy's going to really have a comeback year. And it just hasn't worked out that way so far. But I think that he's doing a good job of, you know, staying calm, staying patient, looking at the big picture like you're saying.
Right. And
kind of keeping in mind that, hey, we're only halfway through the season. There's a lot more plays that can be made in big games and clutch moments, and that's what really they brought me here to do. So everything that he kind of still envisioned is still ahead of him. You know, it's still possible.
All right, you've got these games left to go, and you wondered, you know, do they have enough for the stretch run? We just had the trade deadline pass, and there was a lot of speculation that they were going to go after a running back. They did not make any moves at the deadline. Do you feel like they are very confident in what they have in the running game, even with the injuries that they've had, and enough to take it down the home stretch?
Yeah, I do. I think, you know, they know what Gus Edwards is. He's a power runner who is playing at a high level again. I mean, he's Mr. Consistency, right? I mean, it's like every year he runs for 5 yards a carry and bulldozes people, and he's tough in the red zone and all those things. And I think Justice Hill, you know, he's got to kind of clean up, make sure he doesn't fumble the ball. That's been a little bit of a bugaboo for him. But, you know, he's looked good at times. Keaton Mitchell, the undrafted rookie, you know, once he's healthy, I think that he could really be a guy who flashes. And so, you know, knock on wood, as long as they don't have an injury. I think if they were to have an injury to Gus or something like that, they would be in a tough spot a little bit at running back. Mm-hmm. But knock on wood, if they stay healthy, I think that they are in pretty darn good shape.
Yeah, okay. And it's, you know, a team that's in position to make a run at the Super Bowl and not make any kind of move at the deadline. Is indicative of how confident they feel in the roster that, you know, they think they've got, because it wouldn't have been hard to add some depth there. You can find running backs at this point, but I guess what you say is they've got enough there.
I don't think depth was really the concern. I think they were more seemingly in the market for a potential just game changer. You know, I mean, Gus is kind of, you know, Gus, his top end speed he's not a home run threat, generally speaking. And so I think, you know, and they have Melvin Gordon on the practice squad. If you have depth, I think that what you necessarily could have been looking to add is just a complete game changer, kind of like what J.K. Dobbins is when healthy, right? He's a guy who can change an offense, and that's been their big injury this year, and they didn't replace him.
Yeah, and the Derrick Henry thing, price must have been too high, so he stays there. Let's get to what you think's going to happen on Sunday. Ravens favored by 5.5. Their record against NFC teams at home is great, and somebody asked Lamar about this week, and he kind of freaked out, like, don't tell me that stuff. But do you think the way the Ravens are playing now, they look very good? Seattle's a really good team, though. What do you expect to happen on Sunday?
Yeah, I think it's a close game. I mean, you look at it and you look down Seattle's depth chart and their roster, and you say, man, they have a lot of talented players. You know, at wide receiver, it's the best trio of wide receivers the Ravens have faced since Cincinnati in Week 2. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, the rookie Jackson Smith, and Jigba. That's a pretty good trio. And so I think Marlon Humphrey told me this week the team's success in this game will be mostly on the backs of the cornerbacks. Mm-hmm. They feel like the corners need to have a good game for them to win on Sunday, and that's probably true. Seattle takes shots down the field. They throw to their wide receivers more than any other team. It's not really tight ends, all that stuff. They go deep and they go outside to the wide receivers. So corners are going to have a good game. Marlon, Brandon Stevens, Arthur Millette, all those guys. And then I think, they got a good running game. They have a really good back in Kenneth Walker. They got good corners on defense, Bobby Wagner in the middle. So, they just added Leonard Williams, at the trade deadline, big D tackle. So they have a lot of talented players, but then they rank 16th in the league in offense and 16th in the league in defense. That's the definition of middle of the pack.
Yes, sir.
And so it's kind of hard to say, what they really hang their hat on, and I don't know. It's tough to say. I think it's going to be a good game, a close game. I expect the Ravens are going to win it in the end.
So do I, and it's a 10 o'clock in the morning start time for a team that's from the West Coast, whatever that's worth. Good to talk to you. Thank you so much, Ryan.
I like that.
There you go.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. That's Ryan Mink, who is the editorial director for the Ravens. Coming up, what Dan Orlovsky says after looking at the tape and what he's seeing in Lamar Jackson, plus John Harbaugh's thoughts, and Mark Andrews, who is on the lounge, which is co-hosted by Ryan Mink. We'll get to that more as we continue with the Ravens preview on ESPN 630.
Ravens on 3, 1, 2, 3.
This is the Ravens Preview Show presented by Verizon. Here's Andy Pollin.
Ravens and the Seattle Seahawks at M&T Bank Stadium on Sunday. Kickoff at 1 o'clock. Coverage here begins at 12:30. Ravens favored by 5.5. These teams have met 6 times over the years. They are 3-3. Seattle winning 3 straight during a period of 2007 to 2015. But the last meeting was at Seattle on October the 20th of 2019. That was the year that Lamar Jackson was the MVP of the league. Baltimore won the game 30-16. Lamar, not much in the passing game that day. He was 9 of 20, but he ran 14 times for 116 yards and scored a touchdown as, again, Baltimore won that game 30-16. So they got the rematch on Sunday. And right now, Lamar looks like he did during that MVP year, maybe even better. Dan Orlovsky studies quarterbacks for ESPN. His analysis of what he's seen on tape from Lamar.
It's everything some people believed that Lamar was, and a lot of people didn't. And it was just get him the people. Just get him the receivers that can actually do some of the things, and just get him the offensive scheme that actually allow his – I don't want to say it's like his premier talent, because his athleticism is probably still his premier talent, but his throwing ability is so rare. The thing for me, Rich, is his arm is so loose. It's like so loose that he could do anything with the ball. And you're watching that. I know Baldy put up that clip of him kind of one-legged, the touchdown. And
like a kick throw. That was a kick throw.
You're sitting there going, what?
Yeah.
Like, what? How many guys can do that? So the precision has showed up in their pass game, the timing, he's trusting it. And again, that's something that you pair with I think there's 5 teams in the AFC, Rich, really, right now. I think it's Kansas City, Miami, who obviously we're calling, and then it's Jacksonville, it's Cincinnati, and it's Baltimore. Those are the 5 that you sit there and go, all right, that's the cream of the crop.
Okay, well, they're going to be seeing Cincinnati in a couple of weeks on the 16th. Also Cleveland in the meantime. The division has gotten tougher after rough starts for Cincinnati and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh winning last night, so they're 5-3 on the year. So it's going to be a slog through the rest of the season, but they are hitting on all cylinders and felt confident enough with the trade deadline just passing this week. Remember last year they picked up Roquan Smith, who's been a huge addition to their defense, become the defensive leader for them. But this year they stood pat. John Harbaugh explaining why.
I think our guys know how we feel about him, but we're certainly not, we're not in desperate mode. We're not going to do something out of desperation by any stretch. We have a really good roster like we talked about Monday. And I love our guys. We have everything we need. And our guys have had a great practice today, and we're looking forward to Sunday. That's really what we're thinking about.
Okay, so on to Sunday with what has been on the roster the entire season. Now, I mentioned Roquan Smith, the vocal leader on defense, the 3-game stretch that they have, Seattle Sunday, then they play Cleveland next Sunday, and then on the Thursday night game, they're home against Cincinnati. So 3 straight home games, 2 of them in the division, what it means for Roquan Smith and the Ravens.
Everyone's very aware of what's at stake, and at the end of the day, like I always say, it's your turf, and our fans and our family there. So we have to defend that by any means necessary, and we're just taking it one game at a time, and that's our focus. Can't jump ahead. So one day, one game at a time, and I feel like if we do that, everything will go over well.
I like his approach better than he's not Ray Lewis. He's not that good. But, Ray Lewis was a lot of shtick. They ain't going to come into our house and beat out. Relax. You can win the game. And these 3 will be really key for them. Mark Andrews, great tight end for the Ravens, having another great year. And if he gets a touchdown catch on Sunday, he will match Todd Heap's record for most touchdown catches by a Ravens tight end. He caught 41 of them during a 10-year run. Remember, Heap was with the Ravens for 10 years, 2001 to 2010. This is only year number 6 for Mark Andrews, and while he wants to win, that's his main goal. The record is fun for him.
It's cool. I think I'm close to the touchdowns, and then yards is a little bit ways away. It's close though ish.
On the horizon though.
On the horizon, yeah. I'm coming. But I'm thankful to it's not many people that are able to play for one organization for this amount of time, and I'm just trying to make the most of it. I'm trying to help this team win. Like we've talked about earlier, and there's a lot of greats that have played here, like Todd, like Derek Mason. Those guys have had hell of a careers, and to be able to achieve that type of milestone would be very cool. And those aren't the things that I really want, with football, but they're very cool, so I'm thankful.
And, of course, what he wants is what he doesn't have yet, and that is a Super Bowl.
It's something that's incredibly important to me, and I'm at the point where I don't like to put too much, stock or say too much about it, just because, actions speak louder than words, and what's a bigger action than going out and doing it? Having a year where you just put your head down, you work, and good things come when that happens. So I think everybody on the team has that mindset. I'm extremely excited about where we're going. And if we can just stay focused, if we can just be ourselves, and we have all the tools. This is a dangerous team, from defense to special teams to offense. There's not many teams that have this type of talent and this type of guys that just, want to fight. So I'm blessed to be able to be a part of this organization. And I want to win one bad.
And who doesn't? The numbers, by the way, on Andrews this year, he's played in 7 of the 8 games, 32 catches, targeted 45 times, 397 yards, and 6 touchdowns on the year. So when they get down into the red zone, Lamar starts to look for him. Lamar, I mentioned to Ryan Mink about running the ball. He's running the ball a lot. I mean, he's not running quite what he did in 2019, but in the 8 games, he's carried the ball 74 times for 380 yards, and he has had 5 touchdowns on the ground. So he is a huge threat in the red zone as well. And with the new offense where they were going to pass more, he's having an excellent year throwing the football. He's got a passer rating of 101. He has completed 160 passes, 277 attempts, 70% completions. That's damn good thrown for 1,700 yards, and has 9 touchdowns and 3 interceptions on the year. So a 3-to-1 ratio on touchdowns to interceptions is huge. And Zay Flowers has been a big addition this year. He's got 461 yards in receptions. Their leading pass catcher with 44 catches on the year. So the offense is clicking. The defense, which has been a trademark of Baltimore, is playing really well. And, knock for Micah. If they stay healthy for the rest of the year, they're right there with the 2 teams that you're going to see tomorrow morning, Kansas City playing Miami in the Germany game. And as we get to the real nitty-gritty of the season in December, they're going to be right there. And it's 6-2 with 2 games that they easily could have won. They could have won at Pittsburgh, and they could have won the home game against Indianapolis. They're looking in very good shape. So again, that is a 1 o'clock kickoff coverage here on ESPN 630 at 12:30. The Ravens are favored by 4.5 against the Seattle Seahawks, who they met last in 2019 and beat rather easily. That was not the quarterback that they're going to see this week, and Geno Smith. That was really. I mean, that was prime Russell, right? Russell was still pretty hot 2019, pretty good. Yeah, pretty good. Okay, so that's that, and look forward to that on Sunday. That wraps up Ravens Preview. I want to thank Ryan Mink for joining us. Thanks to Rex Minturn, who ran the show, and thanks to all of you who listen. Tony is coming up next, and I'll see you Monday morning at 9 a.m.